Welcome back to the High School Football Playoff Report. George Watson with the LoneStarVarsity.com, and here's a preview of this week's games. First off, we start off in Class 4A, the Region 1 final of Division 1, and it's Friendship Tigers at 13-0 against a very good Denton Guyer team at 9-3, or excuse me, at 10-2. I'm sorry. That, a school that's only been open for about 3 years, according to Coach John Walsh. I was a North Texas graduate. I remember when Denton Ryan was just barely open. So Denton Guyer is a fairly new school, but they've been on a very quick rise here and reached the fourth round of the playoffs in only the third year of the school's existence. You're talking about a game that you're going to see two very similar teams. Both teams like to run the ball, but both teams can throw the ball effectively when they need to, when they have to, and then both teams play outstanding defense. Both teams pride themselves on being very physical. It should be an outstanding matchup out at Jones AT&T Stadium at the Texas Tech campus, 2 o'clock Saturday. Get out there if you can. Should be an outstanding game to see who moves on to the state semifinals. Moving down to Class 2A, the Muleshoe Mules, like we said, keep rolling, but now they've got to hit the road a little bit. They've got a little bit of a road trip because they're in the state semifinals of Division 1 in Class 2A, and they face a very tradition-rich Pilot Point team, which is out of the Metroplex, pretty much just a little northeast of Denton. I'm familiar with them, having seen them play a few times from my travels out there. And Pilot Point, there is no more tradition-rich team than the Bearcats out there, but they've kind of fallen on some hard times coming into this year. They hadn't made it past the second round in about the last 5 or 6 years. Now you're talking about going up against a Muleshoe team, which, folks, I said it last week and I'll say it again, this may be the most athletic 2A team I have ever seen in my time covering high school football. I see that kind of athleticism a lot at the 4A and the 5A level, but not at the 2A level, not only in their speed, but their abilities and their ability to be physical. They've out-physicaled the last two teams that they've played, and that's why they're in the state semifinals. Look for a good game, 4 o'clock Saturday out there at Shotwell Stadium in Abilene. Back up toward this way a little bit, you've got a Division II regional final with Idlew and Cisco. Idlew took care of Brady this last week pretty handily. Now they get a Cisco team that played their district mates in Roosevelt. Talking with Coach Johnny Taylor this past week, he said Cisco has really improved since that game against Clyde where they got beat. But, the way that Idlew's playing right now, the way they're dominating on the offensive line, the way they're playing on the defensive line, if Cisco turns the ball over like they did against Muleshoe or against Roosevelt, now I think it's going to be all over for the Lobos. Idlew is too strong, too physical, and too good, and maybe just a little too motivated getting back to the regional final after last year's controversial loss to Canadian up in Canyon. Look for a good game out at Snyder at 6 o'clock at Tiger Stadium. And then finally, in the 6-man Division II state semifinals, it's Borden County taking on a team that is going to be a very good test for them this next week in Silverton. It's kind of a regional game up here. You get the Division the Region 1 champs in Silverton, the Region 2 champs in Borden County. They're going to meet 7:30 Friday night at Lowry Field. Should be an outstanding 6-man football game. If you like tough physical games, if you like some high-scoring games, be sure and get out there to this one. Both teams can put some points on the board, and both teams are going to be able to play some defense. That'll do it for this week. When we come back next week, we'll recap this week's games and get you a preview of what teams are still remain going into the final 2 weeks of the season right here on the High School Football Playoff Report right here on LoneStarVarsity.com.